You sitting in a coffee shop, Tuesday afternoon, laptop open, pretending to work. Then, she walks in. Your crush. The girl from your building, the one who always smiles at you in the elevator like she actually means it. She orders something complicated with oat milk, sits down 2 tables away, and pulls out a book. A book you recognize. A book you love. The exact same obscure novel you've been raving about to anyone who listened. She glances over at you. Once. Twice. A third time. You feel it, that electric hum in your chest, that voice in your head saying, go talk to her. She's literally reading your favorite book. This is the universe handing you a gift. And you freeze. You stare at your laptop screen. You pretend you didn't notice. You take a long sip of coffee that isn't there anymore. And when you finally look up, she's gone. Door swinging shut behind her. Table empty. Book and all. You just sat inside Schrödinger's box. And you refused to open it. Erwin Schrödinger was an Austrian physicist, and in 1935 he came up with one of the most famous thought experiments in the history of science. Here's how it works. You take a cat, you put the cat in a sealed box. Inside that box there's a tiny bit of radioactive material. It has a 50-50 chance of decaying in the next hour. If it decays, a mechanism triggers and the cat dies. If it doesn't decay, the cat lives. According to quantum mechanics, until you open that box and look, the atom has both decayed and not decayed at the same time, which means the cat is both alive and dead simultaneously. Not one or the other. Both. Until you observe it. Sounds insane. That was the point. Schrödinger designed it to show how absurd quantum rules seem when you scale them up to the real world. But here's the thing nobody talks about. That experiment isn't really about physics. It's about you, and that coffee shop, and every decision you've ever refused to make. Think about it. Every time you face something uncertain, a risky conversation, a big opportunity, a moment that could go either way, you're standing in front of a box. Inside that box is the outcome. Good or bad, yes or no, alive or dead. And as long as you don't open it, the outcome exists in this weird frozen state. It could go either way. Both possibilities are real. So you do nothing. You tell yourself that not acting is safe, that staying put means nothing changes, that doing nothing is the neutral choice. But it's not. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Inaction is not neutral. Inaction is a choice, and it almost always defaults to the worst outcome. You don't send the text. You don't ask for the raise. You don't pitch the business idea. You don't walk over to the girl with the book. And every single time, the box stays closed, and the result is the same. Nothing happens. No isn't the worst outcome. Nothing is. Because nothing can't surprise you. Nothing can't change your life. Nothing is the slow, quiet death of every possibility you ever had. And your brain tricks you into this every single time. There's this thing called anticipatory anxiety. It's that horrible feeling you get before something uncertain. Your palms sweat, your stomach drops, your mind runs through every possible disaster. Research shows that the anxiety you feel before an event is typically 2 to 3 times worse than the actual experience itself. You're not afraid of what will happen. You're afraid of what your imagination says might happen. And your imagination is a terrible forecaster. 2 researchers at Cornell, Thomas Gilovich and Victoria Medvec, studied regret across people's lifetimes. They found something remarkable. In the short term, people regret things they did. the embarrassment, the mistake, the failure. But over time, that regret fades. What doesn't fade? The regret over things they didn't do. 10 years later, 20 years later, people ache over the things they never tried, the conversation they never had, the risk they never took, the person they never walked up to a coffee shop. That's the real cruelty of Schrödinger's box. When you keep it closed, you don't protect yourself from a bad outcome. You guarantee one. Because the cat isn't both alive and dead while you sit there doing nothing. The cat is dead. You just haven't looked yet. But here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where physics hands you a cheat code. In quantum mechanics, observation changes the outcome. The act of looking, of measuring, collapses the uncertainty into reality. The moment you open the box, the cat becomes one thing, alive or dead, real, definite. The superposition ends because you showed up. You walking over to that girl in the coffee shop, that's observation. That's collapsing the wave function. The moment you open your mouth and say hi, you're not trapped in ambiguity anymore. The outcome becomes real. Maybe she says yes, maybe she says no. But either way, the box is open. Either way, you're free. And statistically, by the way, you're more likely to get a positive response than you think. Because remember, your brain overestimates the downside by 2 to 3 times. The rejection you've been catastrophizing about in your head, it won't feel half as bad as you think. And even if it does, Gilovich and Medvek's research says you'll barely remember it in the year. But the time you didn't walk over, that one sticks. This applies to everything. That risky text message sitting in your drafts? Send it. That exam result you're terrified to check? Look. That business idea you've been researching for 8 months? Launch it. That raise you deserve but haven't asked for? Walk into your boss's office on Monday. Every one of those moments is a box. Every one of them has a cat inside. And every second you spend standing outside that box, telling yourself you'll open it tomorrow, the cat is dying. Not because the universe is cruel, but because time doesn't wait for courage. Schrödinger's experiment was meant to be absurd. A cat can't be alive and dead at the same time. But you exist in that absurd state every single day. You are simultaneously the person who could and the person who didn't. Both versions of you are real until you act, until you choose one. So here's your choice. You can sit at that table, stare at your empty coffee cup, watch the door swing shut, tell yourself you'll catch her next time. Or you can stand up, walk over, open the box. Every important moment in your life is a sealed box sitting on a table. The outcome is uncertain. That's terrifying. That's the whole point. You don't get certainty. Nobody does. But you do get a choice. Sit there or open it. Open the box.